And can we please make some noise for Ali Abbas Zafar? Thank you very much. See, out of all the films that I have seen of yours, मेरा एक special soft corner है for this one film called मेरे brother की दुल्हन. ठीक है? Maybe you were not expecting this one, of course, and then there's Bharat, there's Sultan, there's Gunde, there's just tigers in the hair. It's just been great to see you. मेरा सबसे पहला सवाल आपके लिए ये है कि OTT world जो है that gives freedom to the filmmakers and storytellers to indulge without worrying about the length. टाइम ड्यूरेशन जो है शो का, काफ़ी सारे एक्टर्स ये कहते हैं कि कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट में बहुत मज़ा आया. इसके प्रोज और कॉन्स क्या लगते हैं आपको?
Long format, as we now started calling them series, I would say main जो difference है फिल्म मेकिंग के अंदर, जो कि आप थिएटर के लिए बनाते हैं और जो आप OTT प्लेटफॉर्म के लिए बनाते हैं, is more to do with the kind of viewership that you attract. I believe that the OTT viewing is a very personal viewing. When you go to a theater, you watch films, you watch content with lot of people together. What happens when you actually start writing or developing or curating a series is that it gives you more freedom and more time to engage with your characters. Cinema के अंदर जो structure होता है, जो writing structure होता है, वो 3 acts में होता है. There is a beginning, there is a conflict, and then there is a resolution. When you start writing for a series, then every episode needs to have that. So if you're doing like an 8 episodes, so that means there is an 8 beginning, there are 8 conflicts, and then there are 8 resolutions. What's very important is you actually leave every episode with a cliffhanger that an audience wants to watch a second episode. That's why at times they say it's binge watching. So what I feel as a maker, I feel it's a very liberating experience because the audience who's watching it either comes with a lot of patience or they don't come with any patience at all. Because if you don't hook your audience in the first episode or maybe the first 15 minutes of the series, they will switch on to any other series which is on that platform and your content is done. When the audience come to the theater, when you pay for the ticket, even if you don't enjoy the film, you will still sit through, and watch that film. So it has both its pros and cons, but I always say that OTT is much more a new age expression for the filmmakers. It is challenging. It is liberating at the same time. It's challenging at the same time. And what it also does is it is giving lot of dignity and strength and empowerment to writers, which I just feel that at the time of Salim Javed, when they were writing great text, the whole 80s and 90s kind of don't even remember writers who's written, like if someone will say who's written even like a Karan Arjun or DDLJ, you will Google and find. What is very important now is that people are respecting the content creators and writers as much as they respect the stars and the makers.
I think there's a lot of insight into everything that you mentioned. और आज के ऑडियंस ये हम कहते रहते हैं ना कंसिस्टेंटली बहुत क्लेवर हो गई है ना? दे स्टार्ट थिंकिंग दैट अच्छा हाँ this would have done better on OTT. How do you think OTT has empowered the audience today as well? Besides empowering everyone, inclusive of the writers, the editors, the sound engineers, how do you think the audience has gotten empowered with OTT platform?
What I would say is that what has happened with time is that there's a lot of exposure for an audience. It's not only OTT, you watch Instagram, every young people, a person, whether it's in Bombay, whether out of Bombay, is creating reels, is editing their videos. There are, social media influencers who's creating some crazy content which is entertaining audience. So it's become very challenging for us as content creators, makers, that we live up to the talent which is out there. And what has happened with this is, because now when you have an access to an international platform जहां आपका क्रिएट करा हुआ शो या फिल्म है, वहीं सामने there is lot of international content which is there, which is available not only in English but in your regional language. You know, you can watch Casa de Papel, which is Money Heist, in Spanish, in Hindi, in English. You can watch it in any format. So what's happening with that is that, you know, I always say that content is like food. एक बार अगर आपने अपने कंज्यूमर को अच्छा खाना खाने की आदत डाल दी, they will not get satisfied if you don't give them good content. So what is becoming very very good is, it's always good to have critical audience. Sometimes they're overcritical, which I feel is a little hard, because, you know, like in popular terms now we say अरे अब तो हर आदमी critic है, you know, because they know box office numbers, they know what viewership is. But at the same time, what is very important is that they're pushing the makers, they're pushing the writers, they're pushing the actors to bring their best work forward, which is very very good. I feel that we are right now in the golden era of creating content, because there are so many challenges that we are facing, and this will only push us to make better content.
For all the content creators out there, which is everybody, every single one of us, and for people who want to sort of become filmmakers as well, what are the best ways to maximize the advantages of long form storytelling?
See, I would say, for anyone who wants to create content, for the most important thing is, what do you want to say, what is the story, you know. I never feel that if you make a film or if you make a series, there is difference in the way you should think. What is very important is that आपकी कहानी decide करेगी कि वो लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट में आप 11 घंटों में सुनाना चाहते हो, 8 घंटों में सुनाना चाहते हो, या वो 2 से ढाई घंटे में आप सुना सकते हो इन अ फिल्म. सो आई वुड से दैट any young content creator who's out there, even if you're creating a reel, there are thousands of people creating reels, but only few reels get picked up and gets million hits. Why are they getting million hits? You need to question that cause. You need to question, are you relevant to the current time that you're living in? What is very important is that they always say that the text that we make, whether it's theater, whether it's music, whether it's films, whether it's series, has to be very relevant to the time that we are living in. So you have to find yourself first. Once you find yourself, you will find your story. And when you find your story, you will understand that there are a lot of people who will identify with the same problem, with the same stories. And then when you bring those stories, either in the long format or in the short format or in the film format, they will always empower you.
We, of course, are going to let all of you also ask questions. And before you think of something, I have another one for you. Can working within the limited parameters of short form storytelling be frustrating for makers?
Well, as I said, I won't say it's frustrating. What I would say is that, as I said, that the story needs to decide whether it's a long format or a short format, you know. So if you can tell a story in 2.5 hours, it is supposed to be a film or a theatrical film, you know. Today we are making films even for OTT. You know, when I made Bloody Daddy, it was designed for an OTT release because there was a lot of blood, gore. You know, there was the whole conflict was a bag of drugs, which I knew if goes to theater will get very heavily censored. So I decided, that this film is meant for OTT watching. But you know, if tomorrow you have a story which can grip your mind, which can grip your intelligence, which can keep you hooked for maybe 8 hours, 9 hours, then why not? Why not long format?
When you start with a story, while you're at it, do you decide, ये इसमें मजा आ रहा है, I'm going to keep continuing and I'm going to make this into a long format sort of a situation? Or do you decide beforehand that this is going to be short and this is going to be long? What are your sort of decision points when you're creating a concept, when you're writing about something? that you want to deliver to the audience?
I think, like as I said, what is very important for any story is three key points, which is the beginning, the middle, and the end. When I conceptualize any story, if I just feel that it can only have one beginning, one middle, and one end, it straight away goes into a movie or a film that will go into a theater. But when you find a story and you understand that as the characters of this story are progressing, you are finding lot of beginnings, you are finding lot of conflict points, you're finding lot of resolutions. Automatically, the group of writers that we work with decide that it's going to be a long format, and especially if you're doing something which is with multiple characters. A film, when you write a film, maximum there are one or two main characters, but in a show there can be 8 to 10 main characters, and to justify them you need to do a long format.
When it comes to doing your homework or saying that, Acha, this one is going to be something that I'm going to constantly reflect with, what are the three pieces of content? It could be a film, it could be an OTT series that is very close to your heart, which you keep going back to and coming forth when you are writing or when you're doing some sort of homework because you think that was exceptional. It was a huge genius that you had to get back. मतलब वो आपका homework वाले वो जो तीन वो कौन से हैं? सीरीज भी हो सकते हैं, फिल्म्स भी हो सकते हैं.
It's difficult to use the material that has already been made to do homework, because then you get very strongly inspired. आप कभी नहीं सोच सकते कि यार मुझे ना शोले बनानी है तो मैं उस तरह से सोचना शुरू करूं. So what is very important for us is that you need to pick up more of writers' work. Like, I am very strongly inspired by a lot of Indian writers, a lot of international writers. Like, my go-to writer for all the drama and how to bring a drama into the film or my text is Shakespeare. Yeah. So if you pick up any text of Shakespeare, whether it's Macbeth, whether it's Othello, whether it's Midsummer Night Dream, Merchant of Venice, you will always find lot of drama within those texts, which is very, very adaptable to any age, any era. So if you get very strongly inspired by, for example, Game of Thrones, which is so widely watched series, or Money Heist, or any of the popular shows, what happens is subconsciously you start filtering all those characteristics into your character, and suddenly you feel कि यार अब ये मेरा किरदार बचा ही नहीं है. It's got so closely inspired by other characters that you've seen. So for a maker, also who tries to write his own content, I always feel it's better to get inspired by the written material rather than a visual material that has always been created.
You think, and if you had to rate yourself, you think you're a fantastic writer. See, you're a fantastic director. We know that for sure. We've seen your work. But according to you, what do you think comes first? Ali Abbas Zafar, the writer, Ali Abbas Zafar, the director?
I choose direction any day over writing. I think, as we say in Hindi, मैं गरीबी में writer बना हूँ. When I was making my first film and I went to a lot of writers, I said, यार मेरे पास एक कहानी है, लिख दो. So everyone was asking for so much money, then I had to desperately write my own film.
इतनी सच्चाई माँ.
So then that forced me to become a writer. But if I have to choose, I will any day choose direction over writing.
Do you think of acting? I'm just curious.
Not at all, never. Never.
आज मेरे को नहीं, आज मेरे पास पैसे हैं. I think I want to become an actor. नहीं, shabash. No problem. I think you've given us such great pieces of content. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? You can please raise your hand and I can absolutely get the mic to you.
My name is Ronit Sutta. So my question is that people generally tend to watch the content which specifically speaking has actors which are already established. Sometimes there are movies or content which gets watched even if newcomers or new talents are in it. So what is that point which makes the content tick or become popular with new talents?
If I got your question right, you're asking that what kind of content can actually launch a new talent in the industry?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes.
See, I always feel that whenever there is a launch film for an actor, even for a director, people always feel that there is always a launch only of actors. A lot of writers get launched, a lot of directors get launched. So the first film, what is very important for a first film is that there is a correct representation of the director in his territory and actor in his territory. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Today, there are so many different genres of filmmaking that are getting made. Earlier, in 90s, we were very very clear कि जब हमारा हीरो लॉन्च हो ना, उसको डांस भी आना चाहिए, उसको एक्शन भी आना चाहिए, उसको उसको कॉमेडी भी आनी चाहिए. एक एक पैकेज था. Then this whole idea of opening satellite TV came into India, and then people started understanding that apart from just this commercial mainstream films, there is also a different kind of content. So Anurag Kashyap kind of a filmmaker came in who launched so many newer talent. Ram Gopal Verma came in who launched Manoj Bajpayee, for example, and they all became big stars in their own world. So for me, there is no ground rule of a launch pad. If you are a good actor, any text that is your launch text will make you the person who you would become in your career. What is very important is that you pick up the text that you feel you can do justice to. Sometimes I feel that people are launched in the wrong films and they don't work. If you are brought in the industry, or if you're launched into the film that do justice to your talent, it is always a good launch film, you know. And sometimes you might not be launched as a lead, you could be launched as a support cast, and over a period of time you can become a main cast, and there are so many examples like that. So I feel that as an individual, me as a director, a writer, and a producer, and an individual as an actor needs to identify कि यार ये text को मैं justice कर सकता हूँ या नहीं कर सकता हूँ. You know, every person might not look very good dancing, but he could be great in emotional scenes. So that picking and choosing which kind of film to do, which kind of content to do is very very important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. If you could just pass the mic. If you could let us know what's your name and ask the question to Ali, that'd be great.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I'm Shubhra. So, as you stated before, that a story has three parts. So, in both, as a director and as a writer, what is the pattern that you follow the most? Do you get the conclusion first? Do you get the idea first? Like, is it just an idea, or do you get like a random spark? It's like, this is the issue I want to work on, and this like, or I can start my story like that. Like, what is the part that you get first?
You know, it depends. It's seriously, it's not like some kind of magic that one night you will sleep and something will come in your head. And what is very important, like every director, and I think every like even for an actor or writer, everyone has a process. So how I work is there are two ways to start a story. There is one way to start a story where you understand that either the character, which is your main character. I'll give you an example of Sultan. Okay. Sultan as a film started because first I cracked the character. You know, so when you crack a character, then your narrative gets driven by that character. Now you crack a character who's not good for anything, who's wasting his life, suddenly find motivation in life through love, which is Anushka's character, and now he needs to resurrect himself to become Sultan. You know, now in this case, for me, it was very important that I should first know who this character is, what are his flaws, and once I understood that this is the character I want to make a film on, I wanted to make a film about an arrogant man. An arrogant man who will fall down, and then he will understand that arrogance doesn't lead to anything, and then he will resurrect himself out of his own wounds. That's why the byline of the film was what Sultan, what lies within. The real wrestler is the one who fights what lies within him. So he's fighting within, he's not fighting an external enemy. That is one way of approaching the text. The second way of approaching the text is again a film that I did, Tiger Zinda Hai. Tiger Zinda is a story about getting the nurses out. It's not about Tiger or Zoya. They are subjective to it. So first I cracked the story, which is that, our nurses are captured by ISIS in Iraq, and someone needs to go in and get those nurses out. It could be Tiger, it could be any other person, it doesn't matter. But because I was very clear that there was an established character in Ek Tha Tiger of Salman Khan, I used that character into this problem and the narrative went forward. But actually, Tiger and Zoya are not riding that narrative. What is riding that narrative is the story of the nurses which are captured. So there are two ways of doing it. That is how I work. But different people work differently. Someone gets inspired by a text and writes a text which is closer to that text. Someone gets inspired by real events that's happening around you. But there could be many ins into the story.
Thank you,
sir.
Shubhra. We've got another question.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I'm Janvi. So, as a filmmaker, you tend to get carried away while you're making any product, be it a play, a movie, even a small video, anything, you tend to get carried away. And at times, you tend to lose objectivity, which might be counterproductive for our content. So, how do you make sure that where to draw the line? And how do you kind of contain that emotional side of you to make sure that it's not counterproductive to the end product?
That's a difficult question, as there are different ways to look at a content. I always feel that when you make anything, what is most important for you is to have conviction in it. If you are not convinced with your own product, how will you convince other people? So any form of art works with the maker's conviction, whether it's dance, whether it's music, whether it's filmmaking, writing. Especially in filmmaking, the most dangerous place to get in is your edit room, because that is where you start feeling scared, because that is where you understand कि मैंने क्या गलत किया है और क्या सही किया है. क्योंकि सेट पे कई बार ऐसा लगता है सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा जा रहा है. There are so many people to influence you. अरे क्या शॉट दिया है सर, okay, let's move forward. But when you sit in your edit room, that is the time you understand that maybe something that looked very good on a hot live set is not working on the edit table. So I always feel that there are two places where the films get made apart from the live hot set, which is one when a writer is writing it in a room, and in the edit room where your editor is editing. So how I challenge myself when, even if I've got carried away on set, is that I'm quite ruthless in my edit room. So I don't fall in love with all the material that I shoot. Sometimes some scene, some shot can be very beautiful and brilliant, and every director feels that he should take one shot which is going on for 6 minutes, one take, going from one room to the other. But when you see it on edit, you says, यार ये तो बहुत खिंच रहा है. As Salman says, रबड़ है. He says, काटो इसे. So that's the time when you need to understand that you are making whatever you are making for an audience, and that audience can't get bored. So what is very important is to have that objectivity inside an edit room and says that if it is not working, I will edit it out. It is a very fine balance. It's very hard, but I feel that a maker cannot be overindulgent with his work. That's very, very important.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions, but Ali Abbas Zafar, trust me, it has been an incredible sort of insight for all of us sitting here for the long form storytelling, the good and the bad, and a lot of other things also that Ali Abbas Zafar has spoken about. Can we please have a huge round of applause for him? Not just an applause. We're going to give you a token of our appreciation. Can we please have the plaque that is there for Ali Abbas Zafar? Keep clapping. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ali. Thanks a ton. And thank you so much for coming back.